So, let's talk about socialism. It's one of those words you hear everywhere, and it's definitely one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, misunderstood ideas in all of modern history. Let's dive right in and try to get to the bottom of it.
I mean, when you hear that word, socialism, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Is it revolution in the streets? Is it everyone being perfectly equal or just a really big government? The word gets thrown around so much, it's really easy to get lost. So let's try to establish a clear, simple definition to work with.
Okay, so at its absolute core, socialism really starts with a critique of capitalism. It looks at capitalism and says, hey, we can do better. And the alternative it proposes is built on these three key pillars: collectivism, cooperation, and social equality. These are the big ideas we really need to get our heads around. Now, even though socialists can and definitely do argue about pretty much everything, they're generally held together by a set of core beliefs. So let's break those down. You can think of these as the four main pillars holding up the entire socialist framework. You've got collectivism, a belief in our common humanity, a deep commitment to social equality, and finally, the principle of common ownership.
All right, let's tackle that first pillar, collectivism. What's that all about? Well, it's this fundamental belief that we can achieve so much more by working together as a group than we can by just competing as individuals. And this idea isn't just an abstract thought. It applies to real-world things, from state-run industries to public housing, free education, and, of course, national healthcare systems. And that idea of working together flows right into the second pillar, this strong belief in our common humanity. Socialists tend to argue that actually cooperation is our natural state. We're not just a bunch of isolated individuals bumping into each other. We are, as this quote puts it so well, comrades tied together by the bonds of fraternity. It's a vision that really puts community way ahead of competition. But, okay, if a more cooperative society is the ultimate goal, how in the world do you actually get there? And this question, right here, is what sparked the single biggest, most fundamental split in the entire history of socialism. So you end up with two major camps. On one side, you've got the revolutionary socialists. Their thinking is, look, the whole system as it exists, the government, the courts, the whole shebang, it's built to protect the rich and powerful. You can't just tweak it. You have to tear it down and start over. But then, on the other side, you have the evolutionary socialists. And they argue you can actually work within the system, that the state can be used as a tool for good, to slowly and peacefully build a socialist society through democracy and reform. You know, this split isn't just about strategy. It's also about the destination. What are we even aiming for? What does equality really truly mean? Does it mean absolute equality, where everybody gets the exact same thing? Or does it mean equality of opportunity, where everyone gets a fair start in life? Or maybe it's about equality of welfare, making sure there's a strong safety net for those who need it most. The path you choose really depends on your answer to that question.
Now, these weren't just abstract ideas floating around. Oh no, they were championed by some incredibly powerful thinkers who literally changed the course of history. And here are two of the heavyweights of that debate. On the left, you've got a face you probably recognize: Karl Marx, the undisputed icon of revolutionary socialism. And on the right, Beatrice Webb, a key, powerful voice in the evolutionary, or what we often call the democratic socialist movement. So, for Marx, all of human history was basically one long story of class conflict, a struggle between the bourgeoisie, the people who own all the stuff, and the proletariat, the working class. He saw the state as nothing more than a tool, a weapon for that ruling class. So in his view, the only way forward was for the working class to wake up, realize its power, rise up, and just smash the system. For Marx, this revolution wasn't just a possibility, it was inevitable. But Beatrice Webb, she laid out a completely different path. She believed in what she so brilliantly called the inevitability of gradualness. Her idea was that socialism could and should be achieved peacefully, step, by winning elections and passing new laws. Things like expanding the state's control over essential services would slowly, rationally prove that socialism was simply more efficient and humane than capitalism. No violence needed. So, how did this huge debate between revolution and reform actually play out in the real world? Let's take a look at how these big theories evolved into the political movements that we might recognize today. Well, the revolutionary path famously led to communism in states like the Soviet Union. Meanwhile, that evolutionary path of social democracy really took root in Western Europe, and it adapted over time. By the 1950s, the goal had shifted. It wasn't really about abolishing capitalism anymore, but about managing it.
using the wealth it created to fund massive welfare programs. This thinking kept evolving, all the way into the 1990s with the rise of what became known as the Third Way. And this third way was a really significant shift. It was a conscious attempt to find a middle ground, to try and blend the traditional socialist goals of social justice with free market capitalism. The thinking was, hey, let's harness the power of the market, but let's steer it towards social ends, with a big emphasis on community and responsibility, not just pure state control. And that brings us right up to today, doesn't it? The fundamental questions that divided Marx and Webb are still echoing in our biggest debates. Debates about wealth inequality, climate change, the future of work. We are still wrestling with the proper role of the state versus the market. So the question is still there, for all of us. Which path, radical revolution or steady reform, holds the most compelling answers for the challenges we face now? That's the debate that continues to shape our world.